What's going on, family? Hey, this is Marcello here with Cocktailswithchello. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn off the audio on your end. I think I'm actually hearing the feedback. There we go. I hope you guys doing outstanding. A great evening today. I'm pretty crunked up. I had a great afternoon today with Link Lunch. Many of you guys joined me there, and we had a great discussion. It was actually pretty energetic, and we went with a new format utilizing Zoom connected to this platform, which is Reparations. So it was pretty sensational. So I had a great time. Before I move forward, I want to share with folks that all expressions are my own and do not express the opinions of my organization. The reason why I bring that up is that I work for the second largest waste and recycling company in the nation. So just want to put that out there. And for you and I, if you guys haven't met me before, hey, my name is Marcello Arcelé. Glad to meet you. I provide recycling and waste services for companies here in Metro Atlanta. So if you know someone that needs reliable service, reduce their price on their waste and recycling services, or quite frankly, they need to implement a sustainable solution, I'm your guy. So let them know to reach out to me. So I appreciate that. Let me know where you guys are watching me from. If you're watching me here in Atlanta, Georgia, if you're watching me in my favorite place, which is called Bangladesh, or maybe St. Lucia. It could be, that's a great place. Let me know if you're watching me from there as well. Also, let me know if you're watching me live. Put in the hashtag Team Live. If you're watching a replay, that's cool as well. Let me know that in the hashtag Team Replay. If you have any questions or any thoughts of what you're watching, make sure when you share or you put your comments, put at me or anyone else that is on as the guest, so that we can respond to your comments accordingly as well. Let you guys know today this is our Cocktails with Chello, episode 13. I want to make sure you guys know that. And also, as you see the stuff that we're going through and you like what you hear, share your expression. Lights, love, definitely appreciate it. And don't be shy. You can join the conversation. Share your comments, and we'll definitely engage with you guys there. Let me see if we have any folks already in the stream here. All right, we got Durka Doka's in the house. Miss Crumbly, let's go with that. From Lakeland, Florida. What's going on? Hello, that's what's up. And we also got my dude Michael Rivera. What's going on? He's watching us from South Carolina. That's what I'm talking about. And we got the shark in the house. Richard, what's going on, boy? All right. And let me ask you this. All right, Team Live, that's what I'm talking about. The shark, I know that you wanted to talk about something. The link is in the stream. If you want to join the conversation, feel free to do that, or put a link to the discussion that you wanted to share. So I appreciate that. Now, I already got a couple of folks there in the stream, so I definitely want to waiting to join the conversation. But before going any further, I want to let you guys know that this conversation is actually brought to you by Restream. Restream is a platform that you can utilize to get your message across, as long as you have access to multiple platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn Live, if you have access to that. What is that? Twitter, Twitch, you name it, which is Twitter is Periscope. Definitely you gotta look into that. You may want to follow them on Twitter, which is Restream.io. So what I'm gonna do briefly, I'm gonna share you a slick or a video that they share with me that I could take a look and take advantage and show you how good the platform is. No, that was pretty easy. So, all right, so today we're going to be talking about something that's going to be pretty interesting. I listened to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and, many of you guys could tell I'm of color. I know I'm not black. My mother was Spanish and my father was Italian. However, I've lived my entire life, obviously of color and dealing with the challenges that someone of color has. So I came across a podcast a couple of weeks back from a show called, a podcast I listened to is called Still Processing. So I want to share that with you. Let me show you the slick or the photograph of the podcast. If you guys haven't signed up for them, definitely recommend you to sign up for the podcast. It's a pretty compelling show. They come out every single week. So it's called Still Processing. And the individuals that actually are part of the show is Wesley Morris and also Jenna Wortham. They have a very great, sophisticated conversation every single week. And on this particular episode, the topic was quite interesting. The topic was reparations for Aunt Jemima, or if you're from New York, Aunt Jemima. So they explore the erasure of Aunt Jemima and the reconciliation of the icon, basically just talking about how she came about. And it was a quite compelling argument, and it was a discovery of the icon that I did not know. I just, other than just a person on a bottle of maple syrup, that's all I knew about. I knew that where she came from originally. However, I didn't know the history behind it. So I definitely I wanted to share that. We're going to be playing some parts of the podcast, and yeah, definitely want you guys to join in the conversation and share what you guys think about what we're going to be listening today. So I appreciate that. So I may bring that on and bring the caption on the screen. Give me 1 second and share with. And don't forget, this is a one-man show, so you got to hang in there with me. So I'm going to bring on the first person I'm going to bring on Miss Phillips. And then if I have Christopher comes on shortly afterwards, I know he's in the wing, I'll bring him on as well. So I got Miss Phillips joining us right now. What's going on, Miss Phillips? How are you doing today?
Hey, Chello. I'm good. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Here.
Yeah, welcome back. You already are an alumni of the Chello University, because you've already been on a few of our shows already. So I definitely appreciate you hanging in with us a little bit in the late night hour, for that matter.
I think you're the only one that could coax me to be without makeup on LinkedIn Live. I am,
No, you know what that is when it comes down to is that I've created an opportunity or a scenario that you're comfortable enough that you don't have to dress yourself up, because the message is so compelling that you provide.
Yeah, absolutely. I could agree with that. I'll agree with that.
You can go with that? Okay, good. I like that. And I'm gonna bring on next. We got Christopher Rouse. So we got him in the house. Hey, what's going on,
hey,
dude?
Christopher. Oh, we're not hearing you.
I kept myself muted and I totally forgot to unmute myself.
No worries, man. What's going on? How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Got my own little setup going. Just finished dinner.
I'm glad your setup works. It worked last week, and I'm sure it's going to work again this week.
Yeah.
And obviously your co-host agrees as well.
Absolutely. My co-host always agrees.
I'm glad.
So, wants a snack.
Hey, what is the truck of the day? What truck is your son playing with today? Or is it the same one? The Mystic something, I thought it was called.
I don't know. He just got like 4 of them that he's been running around the kitchen with all day.
Okay, all right. I know sometimes, I just, when I hear this, I know about people got kids, and sometimes I wish I could just go back and become a kid again, but, those days are not going to be, it's not going to happen. I mean, it can happen, sometimes if I'm lucky enough, I could turn into a little kid, man, but I got a little bit of 5 o'clock shower, so it's going to take a while to come off, so you can see that it's trying, so you can get that. So before we go any further, have you guys, either one of you guys, heard about Quaker Oats, the decision that they made to remove the image of Aunt Jemima of the product?
Yeah.
What are you guys' thoughts on that before I go into the podcast? And we can listen to their discussion, and I'll pause it occasionally, and then we can comment on what we just heard. But ladies first, go right ahead. What are your thoughts on what you heard?
Oh, well, when I first heard about it, I know that in the United States there's just so much upheaval, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement and, the crimes and everything. I mean, growing up in the Caribbean, 90% of the people you see are Black people anyway. So we didn't really have that issue for racism, albeit if, let's say, we're in, as you guys call, high schools. Sometimes you would see, some families who are more Caucasian families or families whose children are mixed. Sometimes you would see the preferential treatment there, but that was about it. in regards to the issues we would have with racism, at least in St. Lucia, I can tell. I can't really speak for Trinidad. I've only stayed there for about 3 years, but I have heard as well that Trinidad it has been, something
Mm-hmm.
more of a problem than Saint Lucia. But in regards to the decision, to be honest, I did not fully research as to really why they're doing it. So I'm a little confused there. And in my opinion, if they're deciding to do this now, the question comes, if they've realized the possible issue it would have been, why didn't they do it earlier? Why did it have to occur now in the height
Mm-hmm.
of such stuff? Like, so many things had to happen all those years to the point when they decided to do that. So that's kind of confusing for me, because now it's making people seem like, okay, now you think it would make, I don't know, either make the black people feel better or whatever reason it is. Why is it happening right now? I mean, that's a big question
Mm-hmm.
I have for that. Like, why now? Why not years
Yeah.
ago? You
No, I
know?
agree with that. I think about all the stuff that are changing at this point. You think about like recently, as last month when Juneteenth came around,
Right.
all these different companies started. Like for instance, the one that stands out was Nike. I know many other companies that did the same, but
Yeah.
companies like Nike decided to uh, make Juneteenth a holiday. So this really was all the stuff that we're seeing is at the end of the day is reactive. None of the
Yes.
stuff that we're seeing is proactive, and it's speaking to your question. Why didn't this happen earlier? Once we listen to the podcast, mind you, I'm basing what they share from facts. I have not researched everything. I did research quite a bit of what they shared on the podcast, and the stuff that I researched lined up properly. So I can't say that everything else wouldn't be vetted as well. The podcast that I'm going to share is from an entity called the New York Times. So
Okay.
generally, organizations like them, they do a lot of stuff to vet what they're going to talk about. So chances are
Correct.
what you're about to listen to is accurate rather than it's just a whole bunch of malarkey. So,
Right.
so let me bring on my dude right now, Christopher, and see what his take is on that. What's your thought on that, sir?
I agree with you 100%, Marcello. What they're doing is totally reactionary because of the
Mm-hmm.
upheaval that you're seeing across the nation with this whole Black Lives Matter movement, the removal of Confederate figures from the South that have been there forever,
Mm-hmm.
the tossing around of renaming military installations that were named after Southern generals and things of that nature. It's how these large companies are going to say, "Oh, we've been doing this forever, but this whole thing's going on, so let's make a pivot and get away before it becomes a problem."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, when you listen to what we're talking about and you see all these different changes, it's really hard to either continue patronizing these brands. It's sad that we did because unfortunately, the darn product is freaking good. But but outside of that, it just is a shame when you think about all the different changes that are happening now. Um, Quite frankly, it does get me pretty hot underneath the proverbial collar, thinking about all the stuff that we accepted, and now as it's changing, there's a lot of jubilance and a lot of joy that there's some progress and some change, but you can't help to think all the suffering that our parents and families and grandparents and our forefathers went through without any change. And still, it's not to the point that we want it to be, but still, it's hard to really think that or accept where we're at now. I mean, because I know I listened to a video weeks ago of a woman that was very passionate about not the looting, the marches and the protests, And at the end of the video, many of you guys that are watching this now, after I make the statement, if you heard the video, give me a thumbs up. She says, you should be glad that all we want is equality, not revenge. So think about that. You know, a lot of people, they're upset that there's a lot of protests and a lot of protests that was going on before. But at the end of the day, all what we want is equality. You should be glad that we don't want revenge, because if that's the case, you know, it could be, you know, this is a civil war all over again. So before I start the podcast, I wanted to get you guys input if you guys have any thoughts of what I've discussed so far.
It's a touchy subject because it goes so far in either direction, Chello. Like these times are troubling because everybody has to either sit on one side of this fence or another. There's officially no more gray area.
Ms. Phillips, go right ahead. Did you have any thoughts before I start the podcast?
Oh, well, for me, like what you just, I think what you just said, I believe I saw it somewhere as well.
Okay.
I did see it, and I did agree with it. But I mean, as Christopher said, it's a very touchy subject, and we just have to tread really lightly and carefully on it. I mean, hopefully I will soon visit the United States, but I have a lot of friends who live over there, and they've given me, you know, from even before COVID, they've been giving me stories and so forth of you know, experiences they've had. So I know it's not an easy thing to be Black in the United States. So tread lightly. That's what I would say.
No, I agree. Now, before we go any further, I know that you guys, half the people that tune in to watch the show actually want to know the cocktail of the night. So the cocktail of the night is Purple Haze. Let me bring that up here. And it's a raspberry lager. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's 6%. Yeah, it's really good. I've had it numerous times. And it does have a raspberry taste to it. Another thing to mention that this is malt liquor, not malt. It's a malt beverage, not malt liquor. It's a malt beverage. So what that means is that it does have a bit of a kick. So it definitely goes in line with that. So I want to share with that. Did you guys have any beverages that you're drinking? It could be water. It could be a cocktail.
I got water.
Okay.
I got water as well. I'll be ready next time, Chello. I'll be ready.
Okay. All right. So let me start the podcast here, and you guys can listen in.
Okay.
Some summer. George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota on Memorial Day.
Right.
We are now in July. And a lot of things have happened in the wake of his death. They are mind-blowing to think about.
Right.
Is your seatbelt on?
I'm buckled up, baby. Let's go.
Monuments, statues being toppled and brought down. There's giant Black Lives Matter murals going along the streets all over the country. Kente scarves being worn by our Congress people.
Rude. Stop reminding me.
We now work at a news organization that is capitalizing the identity Black. No more Lego police sets for you kids. Cops has been canceled. Blackface episodes of 30 Rock and Community taken down. The NFL, league full of Black people, realizes that Black lives do matter, but never says that Colin Kaepernick does. Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, retired. Lady Antebellum and Dixie Chicks are now Lady A and the Chicks.
Don't forget also the Washington football team finally gonna have a new name.
Finally.
I mean, we could talk about each of those items for the rest of our lives, and we probably will. But I just want to dial in on one.
Sure.
Which is Aunt Jemima, right?
Okay.
I don't want to wallpaper over that past because I think that lets the people responsible for that character and that caricature off way too easy. if we just disappear Aunt Jemima, then we're effectively erasing her, which does not heal that wound. It actually exacerbates it. It just covers it up with a Band-Aid. No bacitracin, you know?
Oh, yeah. Please. We should definitely talk about Aunt Jemima and the pancake mix. Let's crack some eggs. We'll get out some water, and we're going to get right into some stirring.
I'm Jenna Wortham.
I'm Wesley Morris. We're two culture writers at the New York Times and recording in our living rooms today during a pandemic, a movement, and apparently a rainstorm. Y'all gonna hear it.
This is Still Processing. So Wesley, in mid-June, Quaker makes this announcement. We are going to retire Aunt Jemima. And the two people that are closest to me in my life both send me a text at around the same time. Near identical text messages, by the way. They contain an image of the pancake box and a text message, basically that says, O-S-H-I-T, right? And I think they wanted to know, like, what do I do with the box? And it's worth noting, neither of them are white, but my immediate response back to both of them was, well, how full are the boxes? Right? I mean, at this point, you might as well finish them. But when you do, can you save me the box? Right?
Why do you want the box?
You know, it's a part of history, right? And it's uncomfortable, but it feels really important to remember how America talked about Black people. And I know that you've done so much research into the history and the origins of minstrelsy in this country for this mysterious-ass book you're always working on, which is why we can't hang out on the weekends. Not that we'd be hanging out that much anyway these days, but it's helpful. You know a lot.
Yes, that is true. I have been working on a book about, among many other things, the history of Black entertainment for the last 200 years, it feels like at this point.
Well, Mr. Morris, I also did some research into the origins of this caricature because I was really interested in where the idea to use this Black woman to sell pancake mix came from.
All right, guys. So what you guys think? What do you think where the idea came from? Any guesses where the idea came from using Aunt Jemima for selling pancake mix and maple syrup?
I mean, if I had to guess, I would say it's because my aunt made pancakes from scratch all the time, and they were fantastic. That's how I would assume. That's how I would assume you would get something like that because it falls into a stereotype.
What do you think, Ms. Phillips?
For me, maybe I'm thinking too deeply into it, but I would think that because I'm trying to put myself as being Black in America, a lot of housekeepers and cooks, of course, were Black women, were older Black women. I am sure that the children that were in the house that they were helping to raise used to call them maybe Aunt whoever. So perhaps it may go in sync with, that Aunt Jemima, who was always at home and always in the kitchen making sure we had breakfast, made the most amazing pancakes. I think that's one way I'm thinking of looking at it.
No, you're pretty close on that as well. So I'm gonna go back to the podcast and continue that, and we'll see what the research shows.
Fascinating. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
So, in 1889, this dude named Christopher Rutt and his friend Charles G. Underwood, they decided to buy a flour mill in St. Louis, Missouri, which, if you look at a map, is actually not that far from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Just saying. So in order to revive cells, they start making an instant pancake mix that all you have to do is add water, and they put it in these paper bags and they sell it. And they realize that they need something to kind of give the brand a little zhuzh and distinguish it from other companies. So our old friend Chris Rudd, and this is the part where the tea gets piping hot, honey. This man edits a newspaper called the St. Joseph Gazette. So think about that. So this is someone who fully understands the power of narrative, who fully understands how images work, how media works. Apparently, he decides that the image they're going to use is going to be an image that he saw from an old, minstrel, vaudeville, I'm using that in quotes, poster, where there was a figure that they lifted and transformed into what we call Aunt Jemima. There's also a part of the lore that goes, there was a song called Old Aunt Jemima, a minstrel song, and that served as inspiration as well.
Old Aunt Jemima isn't just any minstrel song. It was a huge hit for Billy Kersands, who wrote and performed it like thousands of times all over the country. He might even have gone to England and done it a couple times too. Written by a black man who performed as a blackface minstrel, because that's how it worked. It's the only way black people could really get a foothold in the entertainment industry at any point in the 19th century. But the song is different from other minstrel songs in that it's about an old black woman who is waiting for her mistress to die, but this bitch won't die.
Listen.
She keeps not dying. And old Aunt Jemima is just like, when you said you were going to die and set me free. You said you were going to die. We had a deal. You just keep living and I keep being enslaved. Why?
Well, so Chris Rutt, he decides he's going to use an image that he's pulled.
I have, I was trying to see here now. Let me see here. I have, let's see if I can actually bring up the song, because if I can bring it up here. Hold on a second.
I honestly didn't know there was a song.
Yeah, I mean, can you believe that? That it came from that? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to see if I can bring it up. Hold on a second. Here we go. Let's see if I can. I'm bringing it up now. Give me 1 second. Oh, it's the only one that I was able to pull up, so you can see here. All right, so this is. Oh, let me go back up. Share audio. And I'll bring it up here.
You want that, Dad? That's how it goes.
I's just a gay and lively little coon, a dancing and a singing all the while. I think that I could fly up to the moon. I feel so good it makes me grin and smile. Old Aunt she bring me up since I's knee high. Of course I love her now like anything. For when the sun was sinking in the sky, she'd take me on her lap and always sing. Go to sleep, your cunning little black-faced baby. Your Aunt Jemima watching for you. She won't let no white man catch you. Go to sleep, your cunning little black-faced baby. Dream about your possum and whole cake. Your Aunt Jemima going to make your pancakes when you're awake.
So yeah, I mean, you could listen to more of that if you choose to listen to it. That was the first video that I was able to pull up. It's crazy to think that, you know, that a product that we've known for years came from, you know, such a painful and racist song, and, you know, and how they managed to brand it that in a way that it was an innocent product, you know, because the way it came from, it's not something that if you knew that now that you would, or if you knew before they decided to remove the logo, it's hard to decide to patronize and buy that product. I mean, what do you think, Christopher?
I think you're absolutely right. I think you hit the nail right on the head. It makes it super hard to buy a product that, when you look at how it was branded and look at the reasons why, it just, none of it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Ms. Phillips?
My question is, was this information out there back then?
Well, I guess it had to be, just that people didn't know about it. Like the video that I played just now a moment ago that was on YouTube was someone that sang the sheet music from the song that was originally written in 1896, but this video was uploaded in 2008. So, you know, it was already out there already. Yeah. So it just, like, I guess when it comes down to just knowing, doing your research is crucial, but at the same time you start thinking, okay, how often do you do some research on a product that you buy? You know what I mean? Like, let's say Goodyear. I mean, who knows? Like, I'm thinking about tires. I need to get tires. Should I do research on a company Goodyear, and like, what are the things that the owners and the founders, you know, like, you know, you start thinking about that, right?
Well, yeah. When it comes to tires, you should always make sure you do your research to make sure you get the best value for what you want to spend. Sorry, Chello, that's my world.
I know that's your word. That's what I was smiling. It was like a softball right there. I knew you was gonna hit it right at the park. Yeah. So I see Wayne is in the house right there as well. Wayne, he's let me bring up. We all know Wayne. He's on about revenge will be ugly, and peaceful resolution like MLK Jr. will be ideal. And then I guess he's talking about Purple Haze. He had it a few times, so you can definitely know how good it is. So let me. I'm going to go back to the podcast unless you guys have something to add before I continue it.
No, you can
I take
go
that as
ahead.
a
I'm
no.
good.
Okay.
You know, a black woman who is in this stereotypical role as a quote mammy, right? Mm-hmm. That is essentially how you get Aunt Jemima on a pancake box.
That Aunt Jemima looked like a classic minstrel figure.
Mm-hmm.
Big lipped. She's got these little wooden teeth. They look like corn cobs, and these big sunken eyes that seem to have no human expression at all. And atop her head is this kerchief. And in some ways, this is the classic mammy figure that you would have gone to the theater to see a white man perform on stage.
So you guys, we all know what they're referring to when they say a mammy. We already know how it looks, right? Safe to say that, right? I mean, I'll just bring up the images. I just did a brief search on YouTube, and it just shows the different images here. So, you know, what we knew growing up was something like this. I mean, that's what I remember. It's something like an image like this. You know, that's what it evolved to. But what they're talking about was, you know, like these are the images here. You know, like that, and then what she was talking about earlier, Ms. Phillips. This is what she was talking about, where it might have came from. You know, that kind of image. But so, you know, that's okay. Let me bring back the podcast. I'm gonna share that just in case if people didn't know, if they were watching, they didn't know what that image represented or how it would look like.
Of American popular culture for a long time, by 1889. So it was kind of a no-brainer because these images are also, it's worth pointing out, pro-slavery images. They are pictures of domestic servitude that the servant herself seems more than happy to provide.
Yeah.
But really, that was a common way to draw Black people at that point in time. Here comes the rain again.
Oh, yeah. We're in the middle of it. It's juicy. I'm not mad. My plants aren't mad either. Okay. So this character has been created to sell the pancake mix. And a year later, in 1890, an entrepreneur named Archie Davis buys the whole company and decides, you know what? We're actually going to hire Black women to play the role of Aunt Jemima to further sell this product. And one of the places they do it is at the World's Fair in Chicago, Illinois in 1893. And a formerly enslaved woman named Nancy Green is hired to walk around the fair, you know, do these pancake demos, presumably cook the pancakes and feed them to people.
She cooked the pancakes, yes.
And she's dressed like the character of Aunt Jemima with the bandana and the apron, the whole nine.
Yeah, I mean, at that same World's Fair, Frederick Douglass and Ida B. Wells were walking around handing out pamphlets,
Wow.
basically criticizing the fair organizers for including no Black people in the planning of the fair itself.
Wow.
Talk about the tension between being represented and being respected. It was all happening at that festival.
Wow.
It was a really crazy time. I mean, you've got two of the world's most important Black people in Frederick Douglass and Ida B. Wells doing the work to try to bring attention to this sort of inherent unfairness of who gets to decide how Black people are represented at this fair.
Yes, absolutely.
But then you have like huge Black attendance coming to see all of the spectacles at the fair, including Nancy Green.
Right.
The Pancake Queen, by the way, is what they called her.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad you brought that into the room, Wesley, because it's really important to note. So Nancy is one of the first of many women to play this role over the years, and including, you know, up until and after Quaker buys the brand. And many of the descendants, including the descendants of a woman named Lillian Richard, who was also hired to portray her, they talk about, you know, that inherited legacy as being a source of pride because Black people and Black women never had public-facing roles. They never had jobs where they were meant to be seen and meant to be looked at. So it's complicated, right? That was her job. It's not as simple as we might like to think looking backwards.
If you guys, as I play this, and if you hear something, you're like, you know, I want to chime in, let me know. I'm watching the screen. Just, you know, raise your hand and I'll pause the podcast. I just want to let you guys know that, okay?
But, you know, Wesley, one of the things they were asking these women to do, these actors, as they were portraying Aunt Jemima, you know, they wanted them to reinforce the idea that Black people were happy in these subservient domestic roles.
Smiling, happy Aunt Jemima, famous for her secret recipe pancakes, waffles, and buckwheat.
And now, Aunt Jemima, one of your old plantation sayings, if you will.
It's a pleasure, folks, to remind you all that the Lord meant for the sky to be blue. But if the day is blue, it's probably our fault.
True, Aunt Jemima, true.
This is straight out of minstrelsy. She was a minstrel figure essentially. And
did you guys hear what she said?
Yep.
She said that God meant the sky to be blue, and if the day is blue, it's our fault. Wow.
There's
Let's talk
different
about
context behind that.
Yeah, I mean, you see, you know, mind you, the contents. I like to hear your point on that, but it's when you think about it for exactly what it was said, it's basically saying that if things go bad, anybody of color is their fault. Now, what's your take on the context?
That's one of them. Another take on that context is it's that individual. It's the reason that your sky per se isn't blue is because you are doing something to prevent that from happening.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And what she said if the day is blue. So what that meant was when something is blue is a term that is not used much, but it means two things sometimes. When growing up, they called adult movies or pornographic movies blue movies. Mm-hmm. But also, when someone says, "Why are you so blue?" or "Why it means you're down or you're depressed or you're not happy. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the color of the sky changes. It means that the mood is not as using an old term, gay. Because the term gay really meant to be happy. So
yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Way that those women were depicted on those boxes. And into this, you can throw a caricature of a person like Uncle Ben or Rastus, the face of the Cream of Wheat guy, the racistly named Rastus on the box of Cream of Wheat. Mm. Each of these people is depicted how, Jenna? What are they doing with their faces in all those boxes?
I mean, they have a maniacal grin on their faces.
Yeah.
They look. Yeah. I mean, they look like a character from the movie Get Out. Like, they look like they are being held hostage and being forced to enjoy it.
Yes. And that smile is the smile that has been haunting us for almost 200 years.
Yeah.
It is the smile of servitude. It is the smile of complicity. It is the smile that says these people like the harm that we are doing to them every day.
They enjoy it.
We've been doing it for centuries.
They like it.
But you see this smile? This smile means that it's okay that harm is being done. It is the smile that Black people know or associate with a kind of complicity in their own victimization. It is a smile that basically says, I'm not going to resist. It's associated with whatever we mean when we say Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
Because it implies that sort of smiling Black person implies that you're going along with this racist system.
Greetings, folks, greetings. This is your old friend, Aunt Jemima.
And pleased as punch with yourself this morning, aren't you, Aunt Jemima?
Course I is, Mr. Lyon.
Smiling happy Aunt Jemima. Smiling happy Aunt Jemima. Famous for her secret recipe pancakes, waffles, and buckwheat. What's a good word, Aunt Jemima?
Well, Mr. Lyon, folks says there's nothing so pretty as a happy face and nothing so worthwhile as a happy life.
Yes, Aunt Jemima, that is true.
And that's some powerful stuff. And it, like, what it does in terms of the image that gets reinforced is it's very hard to, like, see around that.
Yeah.
This is generations of kids of all races raised on these images.
See, like that propaganda that was being put out back in the day. Obviously, if you were a slave, you knew that was malarkey. But the image or the brand that they wanted to create or reinforce, or the message was individuals that look like her, regardless on their social status, regardless, they're happy. So it's crazy to think that, you know what I mean? It's, nowadays you think about, you choose your attitude and you want to be, try to be happy, change your mindset. It was really more of a marketing campaign back then. It's crazy to think that,
The evolution of marketing through the ages is baffling.
Yeah.
It's funny to me, Wesley, how much of this I'm really only learning because we're making an episode about it. America works really, really, really hard to hide this history from us, but it impacts us whether or not we talk about it or not, right? Mm-hmm. So for Quaker to say, oh my gosh, you know what? We don't want to have this image anymore. We realize it's totally racist. You guys have been telling us for years. We finally agree. Black pancake lives matter, and they decide to vaporize it. In doing that, you can't wave a magic wand over centuries of subjugation and oppression. And in trying to do that, I think you end up kind of ripping open a bigger wound than you're able to heal.
Yes. Part of what is happening right now in this country is people becoming aware of how deep the roots go. And I think being forced to think about, I mean, listen, I'm as guilty of this as anybody, right? I mean, for as much time as I spend thinking about, researching, writing about, emoting about all of this history, some things just slip through the cracks. And Lady Antebellum and the Dixie Chicks are two such things. I will sit here and tell you that when they changed the names of their bands, I was really like, oh yeah, I guess that does make sense. And it's not that I don't know what Antebellum is probably referring to. And it's not like I don't know what Dixie is. Lady Antebellum, I guess I didn't think about it because Need You Now is just one of the great American songs, period.
I gotta ask you guys. I didn't research. I didn't research what Lady Antebellum means or Dixie. Do you guys, either one of you guys know, either you, Christopher, or Miss Phillips, do you guys know what either one means, the significance behind it?
Not me.
Dixie is a term that refers to the South, like the land Dixie was commonly used way back when. I have no idea what antebellum means. I was actually just trying to look it up.
Yeah, if anybody that's watching the stream now, if you know what Antebellum or Lady Antebellum, what that means and why they changed the name, I'd love for you guys to share that in the comments. If you're watching me on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, LinkedIn Live, let me know. If you guys just tuned in right now, we've been chatting for just shy of half an hour plus about Quaker Oats deciding to removing the Aunt Jemima logo, or the brand for that matter. And what happened is that I came across a podcast a couple of weeks ago from the New York Times called Still Processing. And on this show or podcast, same thing, they dig deep on the history of Aunt Jemima. How did Aunt Jemima become Aunt Jemima? Why they chose that figure to promote pancakes and pancake syrup and maple syrup, and then the history behind it. So we're listening to a discussion between Wesley Morris and a young lady named Jenna Wortham. So definitely recommend you guys to subscribe to their podcast, because they always have a very interesting take on social news and social topics. And also they sometimes they have something that comes up that might be current. They usually look at it from a different perspective, which is quite refreshing. So definitely recommend you guys to subscribe to their podcast on that. So I'm going to... I don't think I got a response from you, Ms. Phillips. Did you have feedback on either one? Did you know Lady Antebellum or Dixie, what that represents?
No, actually, I did not. I was just like Christopher, I was trying to Google what antebellum means.
Yeah, and if you find out, let me know.
About occurring or existing before a particular war, especially the American Civil War. That's what I'm seeing that the word antebellum means.
Where that came from. Okay, well, that says a lot already as it is, because that time was quite tumultuous, and there's so much, bad memories from that time. So I can definitely understand that anybody this time and age wanting to be associated with that, it's in bad taste. It's almost like somebody coming out and call themselves, Mark, aka Civil War Arcelay. Like, who the hell would come out and say something? Who would want to be associated with the word or the phrase Civil War? So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So, let me continue on with the podcast. What we got here. So we're already halfway through the podcast. It's 35 minutes long. We're already 15 minutes into it right now.
It just hit me. I'm like, maybe Dixie isn't a thing you want in your band name right now or ever.
But that's how it works, though, Wesley. And I really love when our geographical black starts showing, like that is such a Northerner thing to say, because what's interesting about this intersection of our conversation is that it's revealing the ways in which these ideas and these terms are normalized, because either A, they don't register as a red flag, or in your case, and then B, in my case, you know, if I were thing, I would be gaslit, right? People would be like, oh, you're sensitive. You make everything about race. You know, I fully drove down, you know, I-95 in the summer, blasting Lady Antebellum as well, you know, and fully being uncomfortable, and then like trying to parse it out in my mind and being like, yo, but what does that mean? Like, what's the deal, you know? And like not really feeling like I could talk about it openly. And if I did, I'd be shamed for it. So it's really an exposition about how race and racism works in this country. We're told it doesn't matter. We're told everything's neutral. We're told not to pay attention to it, when in fact, it's all so important.
Yeah.
You know, I remember growing up and going to a yard sale in deep Southern Virginia, and there just being a Confederate flag, like that's normal, right? I remember friends inviting me to come with them to see a NASCAR race, and me being like, I can't go there, and then being like, why not, right? You know, like the ways in which intuitively I understood these things to be dangerous, but the popular culture kept insisting that they weren't.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I was in love with Bo and Luke Duke for a long time.
Me too.
If you didn't figure this out, he's the gentleman is he's gay. I'm not sure if she's gay. I think that she's fluid, you know. So if anyone know what that means, that they choose who they want to be intimate with. I'm not sure. And mind you, this is what I remember. I could be absolutely wrong. And if Jenna, if you watch this, because I tagged you, let me know in the comments exactly. If I'm absolutely wrong, just let me know.
And for anybody who wasn't around for the Dukes of Hazzard real show, like in the 1980s, the car that Bo and Luke Duke drove was called the General Lee. And emblazoned on the hood of the car was this Confederate flag. And, you know, Bo and Luke Duke were always sliding across the hood of the car, and therefore that Confederate flag on the General Lee. And I mean, the thing that was so sexy about them was those tight-ass jeans they wore. And those jeans were flying back and forth over that flag in so many episodes.
Wild.
I don't recall a single black person being on it, therefore, I don't recall there being a single racist incident.
You guys, I saw Christopher nod his head. What are you familiar with the show,
I
Ms.
love the
Phillips?
Dukes of Hazzard, but then again, I'm a car guy, and that show is notorious for destroying most of the 1969 Dodge Chargers because they broke every single one of them in half. However, it caught my attention when he said that Bo and Luke Duke were always sliding across the hood of the car, and therefore they were sliding across the Confederate flag. The Confederate flag wasn't on the hood; it was on the roof.
Oh.
But I mean, the message still, in a sense, remains the same, because that is like that car is like the moniker of racism. It's racism personified via an automobile, and that's just kind of how it was. It's just kind of how it's been.
Let me see here. So this is the Dukes of Hazzard. Here it is right here.
Just a good old boy, never meaning no harm. Beats all he never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day he was born. Straightening the curves, flattening the hills. Someday the mountain might get him, but the law never will. Making their way, the only way they know how. That's just a little bit more than the law will allow. Just a good old boy, wouldn't change if they could. Fighting the system like a true modern day Robin Hood.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Look at this. I used to look at this show when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that show. Nobody understood back
No.
then because we were all desensitized to the thought of racism. We went through the
Yeah.
60s, and then we had the abs of the 70s, and then into the 80s, everything kind of came okay, and then in the 90s, it was like, all right, so you're black, I'm white, let's agree to disagree, but we're gonna work together, right? So we had this big coming together, and into the 2000s, you started to kind of see a little bit of a separation, and then going into the later 2000s and then the 2010s, you saw that divide start to grow a little bit as it was more social unrest because of the way black people and people of color are personified in the media, right? You don't see very many black people as the president of the United States unless you're Morgan Freeman or Barack Obama. You see everybody and their uncle who is not of color being in some position of high power. And you see people like me as somebody who sits on the streets and sells drugs because, well, that's the only thing that I'm good for, and I should have a rap sheet that's 46 miles long. Neither one of them are true, but that's just the way that we're portrayed in the media.
Yeah, and then regardless what happened, and your point is exactly well noted, because think about this now. That's the stereotype that has been perpetuated so many times to the point that, and this is a sad thing, is that you have to, that phrase, dress for success. You think about if you're dressed casually in a scenario that may not warrant for you to be casual, then the first thing comes up is that perception, and if then in the scenario, if it's just you and meaning or the person that's not dressed for success and they're dressed casually, God forbid they got their pants, a little bit too loose or whatever, then the person is going to feel threatened. And I bring that up because the first thing that comes to mind, not that this person was dressed any way that could be threatening, but I think about the scenario that I came across weeks ago of a woman that was walking her dog in, I believe it was Central Park, and she felt threatened. I mean, I don't recall the gentleman ever physically assaulting her, nor even getting remotely close to her, but she felt strong feelings that she felt threatened. So given that same scenario, even though we may not come close to someone, the same feelings are present when they see someone in a scenario that is maybe just you and them, or it's more of us, more people of color than them. So do you guys agree, or what are your thoughts on that?
I read that article,
okay,
and it was disturbing to say the least, because basically the way that I understood that to have happened is this woman was walking her dog through a part of Central Park where you're not supposed to have an animal there, or the animal has to be on a leash in that specific section of Central Park, because that part of Central Park is for people who are avid bird watchers. So this guy, who happens to be a black man, goes to this section of Central Park to go watch birds and do what he wanted to do for that day. And a dialogue started between those two, and she got very upset very quickly because he was telling her that either the dog had to be on a leash, or that the dog wasn't supposed to be in that section of Central Park with a non-threatening tone, because that was the rule of that specific section of Central Park. So she blew it out of proportion, and then she went on to say that I'm going to call the cops, and I'm going to tell them that there's a black man, and I feel threatened, and blah, blah, blah. She literally weaponized 911 against a black man because of the perception and because of race relations between blacks and police. She knew that if she made a call to 911 that, and she said that there was a black man threatening me or running around with a gun or anything like that, that she could cause this person's life to be ruined for nothing.
Just like that.
Yep, absolutely. In the blink of an eye, she can ruin somebody's life by saying there's a black man and I feel threatened. She wound up for some strange reason, she wound up losing her dog because the shelter said, you don't deserve to have that dog, we want it back. And then she also wound up losing her job for it too.
Yeah. Ms. Phillips, do you have any knowledge of what I was talking about, the article or the scenario?
Yes, I do have knowledge of that. When I first read it, I was like, this is like so, it feels so deliberate. It feels so, because, I mean, more than likely, I would like to say, because, I mean, I was not there, I don't know the situation, it's not around, but it's like, okay, you got wind of, you already know the atmosphere, the firecracker atmosphere of everything. For you to now say, or to insinuate something like that, it reminded me, years ago, at least in St. Lucia, that's the kind of discrimination a Rastafarian would have faced. I remember years ago, anybody that, because if you guys don't really know a lot about St. Lucia, we were fought over 14 times, 7 times British, 7 times French. And because of all what's going on now, and they have discovered since the UK started talking about or started removing monuments of slave traders and all of that, there's talk about possibly changing some of our names in St. Lucia. It's
Wow.
a lot.
Wow.
Especially when you talk about Admiral Rodney, we have a community in St. Lucia named Rodney Bay, and it's been told that Admiral Rodney discovered St. Lucia. He said that's questionable. So there's a lot of stuff. But even, I mean, I said all of that to say that we really have been under the British system, and so even in our schools, the way we spell certain words, we don't spell certain words the same way that the Americans do. So it's like we're so used to, when we go to work, the shirt, the jacket, the real formal looking, even though it's hot in the West Indies all the time. But because of that colonization, we have that mentality. So when someone would see somebody with dreadlocks on, they would instantly think, okay, they're a drug dealer, they're a thief, something of that sort. And it's just recently, I would say in the last 10 to 15 years, that the younger people who've been going overseas and seeing the world and coming back to St. Lucia or coming back to the Caribbean, and they would have dreadlocks in their hair, and they would have their suit and their tie, and like the West Indian people don't have a choice but to accept them. And now seeing that it's beyond what they look like, and instead of what's in here, and the capabilities of the person, which should be highlighted anyway. So when I read that story, and I was seeing what was going on, that just brought me back to when I was growing up. And I know my father, may he continue to rest in peace, he always used to tell me, don't bring a Rasta man home.
Why? Because it's just the association with it.
The association that they don't have any ambition, they don't hold good jobs, they like to smoke a lot of weed. They like to just be involved in a lot of unsavory stuff. So yeah, that just reminded me of that. But the times have changed, because I mean, right now we're seeing, as I said, we're still heavily under the British system. So in the courtrooms now, we're actually seeing one or two guys with dreadlocks on. You wouldn't see that. Like, that was not a normal thing at all. And like, you're just seeing like more and more and more people are actually having that kind of, respect for people themselves, and not what kind of hair they have on, or what, how they seem to look. But when they open their mouths to something else.
No, that makes sense. I'm glad that you shared that perspective on it. I really do. I want to, if you guys just happen to tune in right now, we're talking about right now is the decision of Quaker removing Aunt Jemima from their branding and their marketing. And I came across a podcast a couple of weeks ago that went deep and shared, they did some research and found out the history behind Aunt Jemima and why the original company decided to choose Aunt Jemima to promote their brand, and then the history around that, and we dig a little bit deep, and now we're having a discussion about that, and we're having an organic conversation around the topic. So as you guys are watching us, and this is Cocktails with Chello, episode 13. So if you guys are watching us live, let me know. Put in the hashtag Team Live. If you're watching the replay, please engage with us. Share your thoughts and comments as well. Let me know if you're watching us in replay. Join the conversation, regardless if it's live or replay. Let us know there as well. And another thing I want you to know is you can definitely join the conversations in the comments right now. So I want to bring up one of the chat before I go back to the podcast. Someone posed a question here. I'm going to bring it up here. So Brian asked a question. What are you guys' thoughts of African Americans who play the race card with no evidence supporting their statement? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
So that's a very contextual question, because I'll be the first one to tell you, I pull the card at every given opportunity because it's funny. Because I find humor in I make people laugh. That's kind of one of the things that I do, and I'll play with the race card all day long. However, to somebody who has a totally different viewpoint on that, in a more serious sense, if it's somebody who is trying to pull a card to say, get into somewhere because I think they should be able to get into somewhere without having to pay, I think that's a total farce, and it's completely wrong. I think it's a case by case basis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what are your thoughts on that, Ms. Phillip?
Well, I have seen people do that, especially at the height of what was going on earlier a couple months ago. My thoughts on that is, if you are to use a hashtag Black Lives Matter or whatnot, I think it should come from a place or people should see you supporting that all the time, because people will instantly call you out, because they will, but where is that coming from? Like, you have an opinion now? Like, that's how it's going to come across. That's how it's going to come across. Like, all of a sudden you have an opinion and you've been mum's the word to you all the time. I mean, so I think I've been very careful for me, because as well, I mean, living in the West Indies is something different. I remember there was a time, I think it was the musicians, there was that Blackout Tuesday. I think that was the only thing really I participated in. Okay. Where I did it on my Instagram and Facebook. But I thought it was a really strong statement, because I've been working with musicians for over 12 years. I've been working with musicians. So when I saw one of my former employers actually, supporting that, I'm like, this is an amazing cause. This is a good stance for musicians, and so I participated in it. But then I didn't there are some people that'll be okay. Every single post after that would be Black Lives Matter. No, not necessarily. It's not to say that I do not support it. It's not to say that I don't understand, the importance of being Black and the importance of being heard. Absolutely. But I'm not going to be fake about it. So for the people that want to do that, they need to be consistent. If they're not consistent, they are definitely going to be found out. And that's
absolutely. That's an absolutely great point. Marcello, did you did you see the interview that Lil Wayne did about the Black Lives Matter movement?
No, I can pull it up. Can you paraphrase it before we go further?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lil Wayne was I don't remember who he was talking to, but he basically said that my whole world revolves around me and my family, and that's it. He goes, I haven't said anything about Black Lives Matter because the only thing that matters to me is my whole world. Absolutely.
I'll look it up.
He didn't take a stance because he's not going to, I'm a Black musician, support this cause, and then not do anything about it. You're either all in or you're all out.
Well, let me see if I can look that up here. So give me 1 second. I just posted the link to, if you guys want to join the conversation and join us on the panel, you're more than welcome to join in the conversation in the comment section. But if you want to have your voice on the topic that we're talking about, just click on the link and you can join us there. So let me look this up. Hold on a second. Okay, I think I have it. We'll see if this is it, and then we'll go back to the podcast. So give me 1 second. And thanks for bringing that up as a supporting topic on the conversation that we're having right now, Christopher. Miss Phillips, you need to step up your game. You need to start contributing a little bit more than what you're doing, okay?
Okay.
All right, here he goes.
What's your thought on Black Lives Matter?
What is it? What do you mean?
The idea is that there's this movement called Black Lives Matter, thinking that the rest of America didn't seem to understand that Black Lives Matter.
It just sounds weird. I don't know that you put a name on. It's not a name. It's not whatever. It's somebody got shot by police for a reason. I am a young, black, rich. If that don't let you know that America understands Black matter these days, I don't know what it is. That man white, he filming me. I don't know what you mean, man. Don't come at me with that dumb man. My life matters, especially to my.
Do you feel connected to?
I feel connected to a damn thing that ain't got nothing to do with me. If you do, you crazy as you, not the camera, you. Feeling connected to something that ain't got nothing to do with you. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I ain't connected to it.
So was this the conversation that you was talking about, Christopher?
I think that's one of them. There was a couple of them, but that's in a nutshell.
Okay, I see we have Jamila in the house. She's there. She's in the cocktail with Chello house. So let's see. Before I bring her in, I want to see if she got you got a cocktail handy. Imagine, even if you got water, it's fine. It's fine. You know, or she got tea. She's fancy. What's going on, Jamila? Welcome to Cocktails with Chello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just still here working. Interesting conversation. So I'm now tracking it.
No. But thanks for joining us. So what I'm asking is, what have you heard thus far, and what's your opinions of what we talked about so far?
So I caught. There's something Vanessa said just now about the Black Lives Matter about well, I suppose people being connected or not really connected and kind of showing that, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like that bandwagon type of
yes
connection to it. Now, one of the things I am very mindful of is not showing my politics in any way on any social media. Because I feel like we have gotten to the point where only certain opinions matter and others don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel as though, now, mind you, I always say that my context is not the United States. So when I see certain things happening, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I can't really endorse certain things. Now, recently in Trinidad, there was a police killing. Let me present. There was a police killing, right? Now, most of our police are black. Like 95% of them are black, or if they're not black, they may be Indian, but everybody's colored, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the 3 people who got killed were black, and it sparked a huge protest. And I'm seeing people walking on the street, like we're seeing these figures in the news, and people have Black Lives Matter, and I'm like, what are these people talking about Black Lives Matter? Now, I understand that the killing it really did seem sketchy, and I had no problem with the police being held accountable for that. But some of these Black Lives Matter activists, I know some of the areas they come from. Now, I grew up in an area that was very rough, and I know what it is like being one person or being a couple people who just want peace, who just want to be able to come and go safely, who just want to be able to study, who just want to be able to progress in a particular area. But because there are people around you who subscribe to a different type of life, even though you guys are from the same area, you're more than likely got exposed to the same opportunities. There are people who would choose different to you. So there are a lot of people who, so for me, it's really important as somebody who is black, and it's really important as somebody who wants to lead, that the script I write for myself is exemplary. And it's very difficult for me to understand why some other people can't do that. Now, I know everybody's not exposed to the same thing. I grew up in a 2-parent household. We were not rich. We certainly were not. If we were, we wouldn't be living where we were. But I still had some semblance of balance in my life, and I am grateful for that. And I was always an extremely focused person. So that benefited me as well. But I mean, I could have easily fallen away. But I chose something different. So I just find it difficult to live in a constant state of fight. I find it very draining to live in a constant state of looking for where what as they call them, microaggressions or injustices happen. And I am black, and I live in a country where almost all of the businesses are owned by non-black people. So the workforce is mainly black. So as a woman, especially my last corporate experience was very poor, and the owner of the company was not black, right? And this man never even spoke to me. He avoided speaking to me, and I think it's because he felt as though he couldn't have a conversation with me without me telling him, without me kind of like, setting the boundaries. And there's some people who would make you feel less than or external if they feel as though they can't do certain things or they will say certain things. But I don't live my life in a space where I am like looking for people to say certain things to me, because I don't have time for that. My mind space is focused on the money and the progress in life and in love and on relationship. On any given day, I think you could choose to absorb things and you could choose to ignore things. I'm not saying that you shouldn't point out an injustice if it's there, but I think you should point it out, correct it, and move on with your life. As for the removal of Aunt Jemima, I wasn't really privy to the history, but I also think that the present is built upon the blocks of the past. Every block wouldn't be perfect. if you're building a house, some blocks will be cracked, some will be broken. Everything isn't perfect, and I believe that all parts of history come together for the present to be here. And the past, sometimes the past, even in your own life. Okay, so let's scale down the history of the world into somebody's life. So perhaps things in their childhood may have been poor. Perhaps they may have poor experiences. Perhaps they may have people who were around who did things to them. But when you grow into an adult, you have a few choices. You could choose to let it go. You could choose to get over it. You could choose to let the person know how you feel and then move on with life. Or you could choose to wallow in that bitterness your entire life. For me, that's an extreme.
And we know people like that too, don't we?
Yeah. You know people like that who you're like, at what point are you going to free yourself from this burden? At what point are you going, and it has nothing to do with the other person being bad. You have to let it go for you to move on. You have to let it go for you to move past things. And for me, no. And there was something I saw that people saying that people in the Caribbean can't relate. We also have our race relations. I mean, Vanessa, you can testify to that. You've been in Trinidad. You see how it goes, right? We have our race relations. We have elections coming up in a couple weeks. And let me tell you something. It is divided straight down the lines of race. That is what it is. Right? So we live that every day. When there was the 1970 Black Power struggle where black people couldn't work in banks and black people weren't the face of anything, we only got 3 jobs. We were teachers, we were police officers, and we were domestic servants. My father marched in that. But I don't live my life hoping and looking for things to pour people out on. I don't have time for that, to be honest. And I think, honestly, if...
That's when you're career driven, you really can't get yourself caught up with that. Mind you, you can be it's hard not to be conscious of what the current state, but you're career driven, so you're aware of what's happening. You make decisions based on what's happening, but you have a certain goal in mind. Yeah, exactly. And I just think that maybe more people need to be like that, but not even from the point of a career, but just to let things go for you to live freely. It's very difficult to live when you are living in a state of constant anger, or you live in a state where you are constantly looking for something to call somebody out on. That's a very heavy space to live in. It's a very unhappy place to live in. I can't be around people like that. It's just too much. It's just too much. It's not healthy.
It's not. And that's probably why the whole Black Lives Matter thing, I mean, I understand it, but for me, it's not something I could relate to. It's not.
No, I agree. You know, I'm with you. I echo your sentiments, and I think about the reason why I brought this discussion was after listening to the podcast, I was, my mind was blown. I mean, I really was, just surprised on the whole thing. So, after listening to the podcast, I was like, really? I mean, I was just overwhelmed with the history, and as a couple of the folks that are already in the panels, even myself, we were surprised to a lot of the stuff that we just heard early on the podcast. So before I bring the remaining few minutes on the podcast, that either one of us that are on the panel have any insights that you want to share before I move forward? Okay. All right.
No.
So let me play it right now. So we're at 18 minutes. We only got about 10 minutes left.
All right.
Ways.
Right.
And something about that transmitted itself from CBS through the airwaves to my living room, to my psyche. And it was just like the wrongness of these sexy men and this sexy Daisy Duke. All the sex on that show, or sexiness, was tinged with a wrongness,
Yeah.
But the thing about what we're talking about when we're talking about normalization is a separate thing from really thinking about what it would mean to then pretend that this thing that had always been normal never even existed.
Right.
And that is the thing that is sort of annoying me about this Aunt Jemima situation, which is that we are not even going to do the work that's required, I think, to understand what the problem even was in the first place.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's a way to receive this Aunt Jemima news and just be like, well, I guess we shouldn't put black people with over face. people advertising food.
No.
Yeah, well, then we need to talk about, hey, Aunt Jemima is an actual problem.
I mean, Wesley, you and I are both kind of circling around this idea of transformative justice, right? Which is, how do you repair harm that's been done without creating more violence? That's just a very basic way to talk about it. But, what we're looking for is a framework to move forward. And just hitting the delete button won't get us there. And that's, I think, the thing that keeps getting stuck for both of us with Aunt Jemima, right? It's like all these other shifts that are happening, they've been problematic for years. But, the chicks, right, as they're calling themselves now, even in their statement, they said, we want to respond to the moment. What they did not say, though, was like, A, we've done some deep soul searching. We realized the word Dixie is racist and problematic, or, it has this historical weight that we no longer feel is appropriate. No, they literally just said we have FOMO. And listen, you and I both have professed our deep love for the Dixie Chicks on the show. And, that can be there. And also I can lovingly hold them accountable and ask for more, right? Which is to say that I have a hard time believing that that's a new awareness for them. And to sort of insist that exacerbates the problem that they're trying to eradicate. So.
Let me ask you this now, Jamila. Do you know the history behind Dixie? Because I'm not aware of it. I wasn't sure if you knew the history behind that.
No, I don't know. I don't know the history behind Dixie either.
We were just thinking that because it was a Southern association, and it could be rooted from the Civil War. So that's what we were thinking about earlier. So.
Well, the land of Dixie is notoriously south of the Mason-Dixon line. So everything south of the Mason-Dixon line was considered the South, and was considered slave-owning territory. So when you talk about Dixie, it's rooted in everything that was south of that, all the cotton plantations and all the social injustices that Black people had to go through. So that. Coupled with the Confederate flag, which, nowadays stands for something rebellious, is still taken as something that is extremely racist because, well, the entirety of the South seceded from the Union and believed that Black people were meant to be cannon fodder and were meant to go do everything for somebody because they were seen as being less than a human. They were more along the lines of a really fancy dog.
Wow, that's pretty deep right there. There's really no way for me to transition to that, but I'll just do it. I'll say this much, guys: if you guys are watching us right now and you like what you hear, please share your appreciation by giving some hearts and love. And if you think that this is insightful, I definitely want to ask you to share it with your tribe and your network. So the same thing goes for the folks that are on panel, Christopher, Jamila, and Ms. Phillips. When you get a chance, I'll go back to the podcast, just share the stream with your network, have them be aware of you sharing your thoughts on this topic. And then also everyone that's watching this live or even on the replay, share with the folks in your tribe. I appreciate the support. So I'm going to go back to the podcast that we're listening to right now.
Oh, I don't know, Dixie Chicks. Take it from us. Don't do that.
Also, if you're Lady Antebellum, while we're in country music trio name changes, it seems like they hadn't checked in with the Black blues singer who'd been going by the name Lady A for like 20 years. So now they worked something out, it seemed, but now Lady A took a second to think about what they worked out and was like, I don't think so. Now there's more legal wrangling between Lady A and Lady A. We'll see how that goes. But the larger question is, changing something cosmetic like the name of your band is just like the first step in the reckoning of something deeper with respect to reconciliation and reparations, or reconciliation being part of reparations. And it brings up this other larger question of how do you begin to right the harms done both to consumers of these products and to the people who are not being acknowledged in their sale and proliferation. And so what does it mean for the faces of these products to not be adequately or equally or justly compensated? So you and I should just take a quick break, get our breath, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about reconciliation.
Kevin Roos, technology reporter.
One who sometimes when we see them going places, how? That's the question we tried.
You know, she was played. Speaking of reparations, which is the sentence I love to say. Speaking of reparations and Aunt Jemima, you know, she was played by a number of Black women over the years, up until what, the mid-60s? Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of relatives of these actresses who, you know, have sought restitution from Quaker, right? And most famously, there was a case in 2015 of the descendants of a woman named Anna Short Harrington, who played Aunt Jemima in the late 30s. They filed a lawsuit, right? They were just like, in 1937, you created a trademark based on this imagery that we believe is based on our relative, and made a lot of money off of her, money that none of us ever saw. And one of the bases for the claims was that because the trademark was established in the 30s, there had been billions made off of this likeness because Quaker was bought by Pepsi, right?
Yes, yes.
At some point.
Yes.
So what these men wanted was $2 billion in cash, and they wanted a share of sales revenue. They wanted stock. They wanted all the things that would be rightfully theirs if someone were to license a trademark in your image and then make money off of it. But ultimately, the judge on the case threw it out because he felt there wasn't enough documentation that the men making the complaint were her heirs or that there was an estate. So when you think about how difficult it is to find historical Black records, I mean, I cannot reliably find a birth certificate for my father. Mm-hmm. What our family says is the story of his birth is very different from what the government has as a record of his birth. So I bring that up to say, just because they were not able to reliably prove, you know, her employment or their relation to her means nothing. But that's not how it's seen in a court of law, and that's definitely not how the media reported on this lawsuit in 2015.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I feel like one of the things that those descendants...
Well, when it comes down to birth certificates, have you guys ever experienced that? Like knowing relatives that either they found it hard to find their birth certificate, or they had some sort of weird story of what happened to their birth certificate or whatever. If either of you guys ever experienced that, or ladies as well?
No.
Nope.
Well, I can
what's
say
your
for
thoughts
me,
on that?
Yeah, I can say for me, because in St. Lucia, many years ago, a lot of the people back then, they did not do well for documentation. So I remember when I was much younger, my mom, when she was trying to look for my grandmother's birth certificate, that was an issue because they were only able to get because in St. Lucia, they used to do a lot of baptismal certificates before and not the actual birth. So you would find a lot of people had that baptismal certificate and not the birth. So it was an issue. There was a time, but now in the last 5 years, it's been way better. A lot of old stuff coming from the archives are actually coming out, so people are actually able to get the birth certificates, the proper death certificates. So yeah, there has been that kind of up and down in St. Lucia for sure.
Yeah, I knew relatives of mine had similar issues, finding their birth certificate, and I say that because many folks that are watching this know that my mother was Spanish and my father is Italian, so that's the mix there. And then my the history of my family is that when they first came to America, my full last name is Archeletti, and a lot of Italians, they had, not to stand out, they truncated their name or outright just changed their last name altogether. So when you read the name, you don't associate with them being Italians, so you don't stand out. So that's why my last name is Arcele rather than Archeletti or Arceletti, whichever way you want to pronounce it. So that's the reason why that goes that way. And then my first name is Marcello. However, I do the same thing if it were my first name. At times when I come across someone that, sorry, I might just stereotype them and like, this woman or this man can't pronounce something with more than 2 syllables. So I'll just say, hey, so my name is Marcello. So I'll drop off the cello and I say, just call me Mark. And you should see their faces. They're like, oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad. I don't want to butcher your name. It's not that freaking difficult, but you'd be surprised how often it comes across when someone says, you know what, can I just call you Mark? Is that okay? So it happens to me more often than not. So let me go back to the podcast. So let me play that. See, we're almost done.
Is to be able to tell a story. I think that one of the things that has to happen in this moment of erasure and correction is the story of what needs to be repaired. On the one hand, there is this thing called reparations. And some very smart, very educated people have done the work on what that would mean to actually even talk about, let alone distribute. Ta-Nehisi Coates has written The Case for Reparations. Mm-hmm. Nicole Hannah-Jones has written a story as recently as last month called What is Owed. What you and I are talking about right now is another part of the reparation process that makes the money make sense in some ways, at least to me. It's more cultural and psychic and emotional than that, because we're not talking about money. I'm talking about something much closer to truth and reconciliation.
Yes.
The process by which you lay out the harms that this country has committed against any number of people, be it indigenous Americans, be it Black Americans, be it the Chinese and the Japanese and the Mexicans. And this is why Aunt Jemima is such an amazing figure through which to think about this. This is a woman who money is still being made off of.
Yes.
In 2020, whose fame, this is the only word for it, is fame, began in the postbellum South and was connected to, 60 years before that, before the Civil War, to an art form that started in the 1830s. And so I don't know how the descendants of those women aren't owed something for the exploitative labor practices committed against them in some way. I don't know if Nancy Green, did she go to meetings? Did she have a say in how her image was used and was proliferated?
Definitely not.
She was probably proud of the work she did.
Of course.
It was a big deal. But that representation should not have been free. And there was a cost associated with all that pancake mixing, because we are still bearing that cost today. I, as a Black person, I live with the awareness that one of the side effects of all this racist advertising and just the racist imagery that has been with us for all of these centuries is this kind of self-consciousness about my relationship to food. And this is, I mean, Jenna, I know you've got a little bit of this too.
Mm-hmm.
Many Black people in my life have this awareness of just not feeling entirely comfortable, for instance, eating a watermelon in mixed company. Fried chicken for a long time was a thing that I really had to sit and think about whether I wanted to eat fried chicken with white people. I know it's insane.
It's not.
But this is the direct result of a trauma that has been given to us that proliferates through these racist images. And, you know, how do I know as like an 11 or 12-year-old that I don't want to be eating a watermelon in front of white people? What?
What do you guys, have you guys ever experienced something like that? Or felt that you had to curb or make different choices when it comes down to the items that you eat?
No, not at all.
Yeah, me neither. I never experienced that, but in the context that the gentleman phrases, I can understand it and see what he meant. Associated, you know, as we grew up, we knew what that, you know, was associated. You know what I mean? Even to this day, when they talk about watermelon and fried chicken, in that specific context, you understand the basis where it comes from, you know, or the association for that matter.
How do I know that? Where did that come from? TV told me. The ads told me. And so I'm thinking through the story of something that needs to be repaired, right? And I don't think that changing the face on the box of pancake mix is really fixing anything.
You know, one of the suggestions that's come from one of the descendants of one of the actors that played Aunt Jemima, it's so funny how murky it is, but one of the things they've suggested is coming out with a commemorative box that recognizes all the women who've portrayed Aunt Jemima over the years, right? The back of the box could list their names. They could spotlight different women. They could turn them into collector's items. Don't get rid of the image of Aunt Jemima, but also show the women. There are ideas out there. Like, people just aren't walking around saying, you owe us money. People have ideas for what this process of reconciliation can look like. You know, the women who played Aunt Jemima weren't given the choice to shape how their image was being used. And right now, they're the descendants of these women and Black consumers who have real actionable ideas about how to preserve that legacy, pain, dignity, all of it.
Yep.
And we have the opportunity to be thoughtful. They have the opportunity to listen and to make those choices. And look, if Quaker can take Aunt Jemima on a road show all around the country and overseas too, you know, they went to the Paris World Fair as well, you know, and Disneyland itself had an entire restaurant, right, about Aunt Jemima and devoted to pancakes.
Sure did.
If they can do all that in the past, right, then they can certainly take the step to push it forward and take the legacy of Aunt Jemima to both the Blacksonian, right, and Disneyland with the real story. Just commemorate her and unearth the history and bring it into the future so that everybody can learn from those mistakes.
Yes.
You know, there's a meme that's going around that I've really been holding close throughout all of this. And it's a slideshow. And the first slide is, you know, the news announcing that non-white actors will no longer voice characters on The Simpsons. There's a slide, you know, The Office is taking down episodes featuring blackface. Realtors in some state are no longer going to call the master bedroom anymore, right? It kind of gets more ridiculous as they go on. And then the last slide is a quote from Malcolm X. And it says, in very typical Malcolm X fashion, but this has really been sticking with me and I'm going to hold it close. The white man will try to satisfy us with symbolic victories rather than economic equity and real justice. And I really think that sums up everything about this moment, that we have to be really careful not to get bogged down in the symbolism of it all, and we have to ask for real things that both look like that economic remuneration, but also that cultural acknowledgement, right? That we were here, we had lives, and they mattered, you know? That's really all anybody wants, and it's really not too much.
Wow. Now, that covers a lot. Now, when it comes down to what she was talking about earlier, the symbolism, and before that, actually, what they were talking about, the changes that we're so used to, like, let's say, the master bedroom. You know, realtors deciding not to call the master bedroom the master bedroom. I've heard even technology companies like Apple are going to be changing how code is written. They'll, instead of saying master drive or something like main drive or secondary drive, I mean, just to eliminate that whole association. From in my case, and from right to left, Christopher, what do you think about, you know, these changes that you see that, you know, we said earlier in the show was reactive. What are you guys thinking?
It's totally reactive, and I think it's a little much. I feel like we can't call a master bedroom anymore because it might hurt somebody's feelings. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. It seems to me that it's ridiculous, right? Why are you going to change a master bedroom from a main bedroom or a master drive to a main drive? They both essentially mean the same thing. Just it's a different word. I don't know. I feel like it makes people look, or it's too sensitive, right? I feel like everybody's being too sensitive about the word master because of how historically it had been portrayed. But the master bedroom isn't a bedroom for a specific person. It's usually the people who buy the house get the master bedroom. They own the house to get the big bedroom. It's just kind of how it's been. You know what I mean? Or the master drive or the master file is the one file that has everything, and it's not everything except the things that pertain to black people. So I believe it's ridiculous.
Yeah. What do you think, Ms. Phillips? What are your thoughts on all these reactive changes to things that we just become? You know, we know that it doesn't. Well, not we. I'm not speaking for other folks, but I speak for myself. That, you know, when I think about a master bedroom, I wasn't thinking about, you know, anything associated with slavery. But what's your thoughts on that, Miss Phillips?
I think it's when you go that deep unnecessarily, it's kind of mocking in a way. To look to magnify terms that don't necessarily have anything to do with slavery. To me, in my perspective, it's like, if you want to know, try to change master bedroom to middle. To me, it's a little mocking. To me, it's like, if I'm in the place of an African American and I would hear something like that, I'm like, okay, so are you trying to say that you're trying to now eliminate every single, and there is no way that you can eliminate every single phrase or phrase in the English language to make us feel better, to make the painful things go away. So in my opinion, I agree with Christopher. It's a little bit ridiculous, and then it's mocking to me.
Jamila, what's your thoughts on the topic, on that?
Well, yeah. So to round out the three, I do think it's cosmetic.
Okay, that's a good way of saying that. I like that.
It's quite cosmetic, and I think as a student of language and also as a student of history, usually language evolves at a slower pace than society. It's kind of like law. So we develop language to facilitate an actual real change. we don't try to force the language or create the language to force the change, because then it seems kind of crazy, kind of like almost like false cosmetic, really, because it doesn't represent anything real, right? And when you start to get granular, I think and there's no other way to put it, but it really is a certain sense of white guilt that's showing up like this. And I don't think it makes any sense from the point of view of trying to have the process reversed, like the cart before the horse, as we say here. If you really want things to change, what you need to actually change is the behavior, and then the language will follow next. Other than that, it's cosmetic, and all it does is serves to make people uncomfortable. At least I would think it's highly ridiculous. Because what if I sit here and I say I'm the master of my destiny? What you say? Is your destiny a slave? Would you say that? No, because I just think it's ridiculous. So at the end of the day, if you really want to be able to have, you don't need to aspirate your girls with language. Just, actually change or actually do certain things. And I just have to say this. I also feel like, to a large extent, because based on the things we are fed through media, we get two extremes of things. So we get the extreme side of people who want things to be, who would say things like defund the police, and who would say things like that. And then you get the extreme side of people who will say that there's no racism in the system, which I think are two extremely polar views, but I also think both of them are inaccurate because of the extremity of the both of them, right? Because I don't think anybody wants to defund the police in any way. At least for me, I should say, for me, especially somebody who comes from a community where I personally have called the police on people because I can't sleep at night because the music is so loud, right? But I do hope that they never find out, and I shouldn't have to feel like that in my own home. But at the same time, you can't sit there and tell me that racism doesn't exist or there's nothing in the system. That's not true. I also experienced that. I've been in meetings, I work in marketing, and they will literally sit and look at the ad samples and say, could we get somebody who's not so dark? And they will literally, and that happens here outside the it happens. Right? And I look at my VP and she's like, I know it bothers you, but this is what it is and we have to do what we have to do. We are not tiny children.
Yeah, because when they're talking about that, they feel, or what I mean, if let's say if I was in that meeting, it's safe to say that the culture that has been established is their version of a safe space. So they feel comfortable to say, that's their way to say, hey, can we choose someone's color is similar to maybe a paper bag rather than some, So
we call it agency brown.
Agency brown, huh?
Yeah, that's good enough for the ad agency.
Interesting way of putting that. Okay.
I like that. I'm stealing that. I am now agency brown.
Yeah, you're amongst us. Listen, I'm darker than you, so you're definitely agency brown.
I don't think you're darker than me, Chello. You just
Jamila.
live in Florida, or you live in Georgia. You get more sun than I do.
Yeah. This is actually my natural color, but I can't get a little bit darker. I was thinking about a photograph that I'll show you here. It was a photograph the other day. My wife and I was looking at something that happened about 6 years ago. It was a photograph 6 years ago, and my wife and I came back from our travel, and we were. Let me see here. Let me bring this up here. We came back from travel, and I think most likely we probably came back from a cruise. And needless to say, we came back from a cruise, so our tan was pretty dark. So let me show you how. Mind you, I don't think I was any darker than what I look now, but in person you could tell that I was pretty chocolate. Let me see here. Let me bring it up here. So look at this here. So you can see there. This is me and the wife, and this is 6 years ago, and we both. It's 6 years ago. You see it?
You look the same. You look the same.
Yeah.
You look the same to me, Chello.
Yeah. What was that?
You look the same to me.
Yeah. But even when I get tan, I don't really get that much darker. So yeah, it's kind of kooky. But yeah. So now I was going to wrap up the show. So I wanted to know if you guys have any, for starters, I definitely want to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're passionate about. Why should folks connect with you on LinkedIn? It's almost like I mentioned, a lot of people that know me personally and been watching Cocktails with Chello for some time know that Link Lunch was a spinoff from this because, and even Darryl mentioned it, he liked the format, but he wanted to put some sort of guardrails. So that's why we try to keep it maybe to an hour or so during the day at lunchtime. So essentially, if you look at some old shows from Cocktails with Chello, you can see that we had a lot of people come through and we had an organic conversation. But after a while, then at one point I realized that I wanted to pivot slightly. So then I come in with a topic to talk about. So at least we have something to have a conversation. But we still want to go back to the roots, which is still a networking type show, but it's more of a laid-back networking. So I want to start with the ladies, and which of the two ladies like to go first and talk about what they're passionate about and share their story, and why should folks connect with them?
Well, I'll go first.
There you go. Go right ahead.
Okay. So my name is Jamila. I would have jumped on here a little bit late. And I am really, really passionate about helping people reach their fullest potential. And I do that through personal branding, coaching, and development, particularly for corporate dropouts. And when I say corporate dropouts, I'm talking about people who are tired of the 9-to-5 grind. They're basically tired of fitting themselves into the box that is a corporate environment. They want to be free. They want to shape their own life, shape their own future, and they want to be able to do that based on a passion or based on their expertise. So for me, I'm really, really passionate about that. I love seeing people, oh yeah, look at me, looking fancy, right? So I really, really love to see that. I love to see people be aggressive and go after the things that they want. I love to see people just be blissfully happy. I think we have gotten so accustomed, at least for me, in 2016, I left my good job. In 2015, I left my good job to go back to school. I got a scholarship. I'm like, I want to live outside of Trinidad. I got a scholarship. I went to England. I stayed for a year. It was great. I came back home, no job to be had, and I spent 3 years looking for a job. And it was like one of the most difficult periods in my life. And it taught me a lot about myself, and it also taught me that I have a capacity for a lot more than I realize, and I have a capacity to impact people, because in the midst of me looking for my breakthrough, I always try to encourage others to look for theirs. And I realized that became something that I became really good at. And I kept kind of speaking into people, and people would tell me, oh, how are you so positive? You are so positive. And I'm like, I mean, is there any other way to live? I mean, to live in a state of bitterness because you can't get this and can't get that, it really is a heavy place to live in. And so as a result of that, I started doing more and more things, and I got my name out there, and I was writing, I was blogging, I was doing all other things, but it had little structure. Anyway, but eventually I networked my way into a lot of different opportunities, speaking with the local chamber of business, speaking at universities, speaking at different things. And this year I actually wrote and launched my first book called The Brand Print. Finally, after much virtual whippings from my mentor. And that came out, and that was really impactful, so I'm really proud of that. And now I'm actually hosting the Brand Print Summit, which is based on the book. So it's basically me teasing out all of the topics that I covered in the book and finding an expert to focus on those topics. So you basically get in my book in the form of a summit, and you can access that for free. But it really is me wanting to impact in the best way that I can. And the best way that I know how is to help other people be able to find a pathway to creating a life that they love based on the thing that they love, and not necessarily being forced to conform, because I like to be free. So earlier this year, I actually had a job interview, and I got up, I got dressed, and the morning for the interview, I Googled the company just to do some research. And when I saw it, I said, no. I wrote an email and said, sorry, I can't come. I need to be free, and this environment doesn't look like a free environment. And So that's me. So if you want to connect with me, if you want to be able to know how to take yourself to the next level, if you want to build that confidence to put yourself out there, if you're unclear about what you should be focusing on or who you should be focusing on to reach, if you know you have a destination in mind career-wise, you have a destination in mind to build a personal brand on, but you're not quite sure how to do that, who to talk to, where to start, how to use social media. I mean, how to kind of bring all those things together and how to like build your network in a really strong way. And LinkedIn has been very instrumental in me expanding my network. Even my presence right now on the show really is because I am very, very intentional about that. And people are almost surprised now when they get DMs to me. And I'm like, but I do this every day. And they're like, well, people never send me a message, you know. Anyway, so that's my story in a nutshell. And I also have a podcast as well called Shut Up and Listen. With my friend and business buddy, her name is Carla Williams Johnson, and we basically talk about personal branding strategies and marketing strategies and just business mindset stuff, so people can listen and tune in.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And now I wanted to ask you, do you have, if somebody wants to sit down and talk to you, because they may not know, or even if they know about how to go about their branding, do you have a way for them to schedule some time with you, or do you just ask them to send you a message and you guys exchange information to firm up a time? Is that?
I do have my calendar so people can book like 30-minute slots with me.
Okay.
Normally they could send me a message. I will send them my calendar and they could book the time.
Okay, yeah. With me. And if you can, while we're now, put a link to your podcast on the discussion on the live chat. On LinkedIn, also put a link to your calendar, and then also if there's a link to your book as well, please put that there. And then lastly, tag your co-host on your podcast to the show as well.
I certainly will.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips, you're up next.
Yes,
Go right ahead.
Jamila just caused me to be like so speechless. But
no.
Hey, you know, it's power. And Jamila, we will have to talk because I'm starting deletion specialist, social media strategist. I enjoy doing write-ups of every kind, biographies, press releases, anything of the creative nature. My passion really is entrepreneurs, business owners who have absolutely no idea what to do in regards to social media. In May, I launched a program named the Social Media Runway, which is derived from my previous modeling experience. I've been involved in Caribbean modeling for the past 20 years. I'm trained by Richard Young, Jamila, if you know Richard.
Yes, Richard, trainer to the stars.
Yes. So big up Richard Young on that. And I learned a lot of disciplines in my modeling career, and I realized, hey, some of these disciplines can actually be applied to social media strategy. So I launched that in May, and it's going very well. And I'm actually teaching entrepreneurs how to create proper content and help them to strategize on how to own it on social media and really turn potential customers into customers and then into clients. So I'm really passionate about that. I've been working with a lot of small business owners that they're really educated. They're being educated right now on a lot of things that the more techie people might say, like, okay, how in heaven's name didn't they know that? But you know, they do have a lot of business people. People have been in business for years, and they have absolutely no clue on social media platforms. What's a hashtag? What's tagging? What's posting on a regular basis? And I break it down for them in really easy ways to make, because there are some entrepreneurs that rather do things on their own, and they're not able to hire someone. And so that's the role that the Social Media Runway plays. Feel free to check me out on LinkedIn. Evolution Public Relations Management Limited is a business page on LinkedIn as well. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a private message and we can talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Chris, are you ready or are you nervous? You need to get your story straight. What's going on? You ready?
I'm always going to get some story straight, Chello. You know me.
All right, we got Chris. Go right ahead, buddy.
All right. So my name is Christopher Rouse, and I am an ambassador with the National Association of Local Businesses. And we offer over 100 top-quality products and services at discounted prices normally reserved for much larger companies. Through our collective buying power, we assist small businesses to be more profitable, more promoted, and more productive. So, in a nutshell, I am your concierge of business solutions, whether you're looking for a website to be made, hosted, and your listing services, SEO, things like that need to be handled, or you're looking for a fleet of cars to send your crew to the four corners of the globe. I have solutions in place to save you time and to save you money, so you don't have to make tons of phone calls to find the things that you need to get done. You make one phone call, it gets done for you, and you are able to do the things that you want to do and that you need to do to further your business. The thing that I'm most passionate about actually is more of a vehicular nature. I'm a car geek by trade.
It's a vehicular nature.
Absolutely. I have
that.
a BMW that I'm working on rebuilding. I've got a whole bunch of tools. That's actually what my TV sits on in my living room. Is my toolbox. So that is the thing that I'm most passionate about, because if you understand your car and you understand the workings of it, then not only are you safer on the road, but you make the road safer for everybody else to be on as well.
That makes sense. I never thought about it that way. It's funny, as you mentioned, I think about me just changing, getting my, what's this thing called? I got my brake done just yesterday because they were squeaking like nobody's business. I got those done. And I was dealing with it for a while, but it was so bad that I had to get my rotors replaced. So I can understand where you're coming from. So when I was driving today and then yesterday after I got my car done, I would agree the feeling of safety is definitely escalated because you know that everything is addressed, so you don't feel that something could happen. So I would agree with that.
Absolutely. Your tires and your brakes are two of the most important parts of your car, whether you want to believe it or not. If your brakes don't stop you, I guarantee you that tree will. But
that's a good way of putting it.
And if you are the person who rides on your tires until they're drag radials, try driving on the drag radial in the rain. It's not a very fun situation to be in, all-wheel drive or not.
Good point. So I'll wrap up on my end. I'll let folks know that many of you guys know my name is Marcello Arcelé. I provide recycling and waste services for small to medium-sized companies here in Metro Atlanta. I represent a company called Republic Services. So if you know someone that needs trash and recycling services at their facility, or they have it already, but they want to make a change for many reasons, it could be they want to get a better price, they want to get a reliable company, or if you are a large organization like a Quaker or a Pepsi, you might have sustainability initiatives and goals that you want to implement, or specific recycling initiatives that you need a professional to help you walk through those process and provide recommendations to make sure you hit those goals, then I'm your guy. Now, if you're watching me here on LinkedIn and you're watching us here on Cocktails with Chello and you're like, gosh, I'd like to join, talk to him, or I'd like to probably join him on Coffee with Chello because I have a specific topic I want to I like to have a platform to talk about, then you could actually, when you go on my page on the second tile, is a section here called Virtual Coffee with Marcello. When you click on there, you can select a video call with LinkedIn, or if you're shy, which if you want to go on LinkedIn Live, I guess it wouldn't work, but if you're shy, you could just click, you can select the audio call, and we could just have an audio call, and we could schedule it. You can have access to my calendar. I think that the earliest I have spotty availability next week, but you can just select a day and time that works for you, and we can schedule time to talk about what you want to have an opportunity to share your thoughts. And the reason why I bring that up is because sometimes let's say, for instance, if you are, a brand specialist. I heard the word branding a couple of times on this live stream. But let's say, for instance, you come across someone and they say, "Hey, I heard that you do branding. I've been wanting to do this. Is there any way that we should? Can you tell me more about it?" And chances are they coming to you, and you're about to go to a meeting, or you're about to pick up your child from the babysitter, or lastly, you're probably running to an appointment, and you can't sit down and talk. You can say, "You know what? Hold on a second. What's your number?" You can send them a text. Say, "I'm gonna send you a text or a video that I had a conversation with Marcello." And in this video, it's about 15 to 20 minutes long. I talk about exactly the services I provide, why you should pick me, and essentially the steps that we need to uncover to determine if we're a good fit. After you watch that video, let's schedule time to talk. Now, what that video does essentially is allows you to qualify that individual. Yeah. And then you can make sure that you could make sure that, the person, if they want to move forward, great. And then it's less time you spending sitting there talking to somebody 20, 30, 40 minutes later. You're like, I really want to leave, but you want to be cordial.
Yeah.
And be like, so, but at least it's a good way.
Yeah.
So that's what I recommend a lot of people, that if they wanted to do this, let's schedule a time, look at my calendar, but I ask you, know exactly what you want to talk. Let's talk anywhere between 1 to 3 topics, and then you could actually make sure that it's concise. And then that same link, when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, guess what? The same thing. Hey, thank you very much for connecting with me on LinkedIn. Here's a link to a video that I had, a conversation about me and the services that I provide. If you think there's some value there, let's schedule a time to talk. Here's a link to my calendar. So that's something to consider. So if you guys are interested in doing that, let me know, because I want to share my platform here on LinkedIn and help others. So
so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And before I leave, did you guys have any parting words that you want to share?
Any parting words? Just keep positive, guys, and keep pursuing your dreams. I know it sounds a little ethereal, but that's really what it is. You are as confident as you think you are, and confidence is key. As professionals, that's what we trade in, and when we believe 100% that we can, then other people believe it too. So always work on self and just keep doing your thing. That's what I would say.
Absolutely.
I like that.
When you're going through hell,
What do you think, Chris?
keep going.
Miss Phillips, what you have to say?
I would echo the same sentiments. Just don't give up. Just, even if one thing doesn't work, there's another thing that can work. So just don't give up. Just don't give up.
Yeah, I would add to that too. I'll say that sometimes if you're down in the dumps, or you're sad and melancholy, it might be a combination of two things. It might be your mindset, your perception, and then second, the people you associate with. So you may want to do an audit of the people that you're with, and consider either change your attitude or change your friends. You can't change your family, but you can change your friends, and consider that. That might make a big difference, so just consider that.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So I would. Yeah, I'm glad you agree. Thank you. I appreciate everyone on the panel today. It was an insightful conversation, and I actually enjoyed everyone's insight on that. So I want to thank you, everyone, for doing that and taking time out of your day to hang out with the dirty dog over here. So I appreciate that.
No problem, Marcello.
You guys
always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. And you guys have a wonderful day.
You too,
Take care,
Marcello.
guys.
Have fun.
Bye-bye.
See you guys later. Y'all have a wonderful day.